Oh, yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, up, boom. There was a piece of advice I was given in the early stages of my legal career that I have never forgotten and which proved to be the most useful piece of advice I had ever been given. Now, the good and the bad thing about good advice is that it requires life experience in order to acquire. Good advice also requires life experience in order to fully appreciate. Kierkegaard famously wrote that life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Even if I could have appreciated the advice at the time, it required the life experience that came afterwards in order to fully understand. Your greatest enemy in commercial litigation is not opposing counsel. It's not the opposite party that's your biggest enemy. Your biggest enemy is your own client. Is your own client. It sounds so counterintuitive, so illogical that it's difficult to believe. How can your own client be your biggest enemy? Well, the important thing is we're not using the term enemy in the traditional sense of people who hate each other. It means that the person that you have to watch out the most for and from is your own client. Let me explain. The thing about commercial litigation is that it's fundamentally adversarial. So you never start with the expectation that opposing counsel, the opposite party, are going to be totally transparent. In fact, you sort of assume that they're not going to be. Whereas as a young lawyer, your expectation is that your own client is going to be totally honest, totally forthright, and totally transparent. Whether or not it's a question of bad faith, maliciousness, genuine ignorance, or forgetfulness, you quickly learn that your client does not always tell you only the truth and nothing but the truth. In fact, ironically enough, some of the other best advice I ever got as a young lawyer was from opposing counsel, who told me that I am going to learn the dirtiest, darkest secrets about my client, not from my client, but from opposing counsel. He was 100% right. Your client will go into great detail as to everything the other party did to them without necessarily going into as much detail as to what they might have done to the other party. And it's not even a question of malice or dishonesty, it's just human nature to be reluctant to disclose the things that you did, but be willing to offer as information the things that were done to you. But you'll find out from opposing counsel. When I say that the client is your biggest enemy, I don't mean in the sense that they're out to get you and that they're going to try to hurt you. Incidentally, some clients are going to do that. They're going to throw the lawyer under the bus in the blink of an eye, and these are clients that you want to avoid and get rid of if you determine that you have one. Picking a client is not much different than picking a girlfriend or a wife. You have to pick someone that you're going to have a successful, manageable relationship with, someone that you can trust. Some of the clients are going to be your enemy, not in the sense that they're trying to get you, but that when things hit the fan, they are going to blame you. Asking your client, why didn't you tell me that? Their answer is going to be, well, you didn't ask and I didn't think it was relevant. They're never going to say, I should have known better, because the reality is, you're the lawyer. You are there to get the information from them, whether or not they elect to give it to you. I've had clients get mad at me because I was asking questions that they didn't want to answer, and they say, why are you asking me this? You're supposed to believe me. And my answer is, it doesn't matter what I believe. It matters what's going to come out when opposing counsel asks you these very same questions. This is not information I want to learn for the first time in cross-examination. Very few clients are going to be enemies in the sense that they are actively trying to get you in trouble, but there will be some. The type of clients who ask you to certify a document so they can get a loan from the bank, but the document contains inaccurate information, so at the end of the day they can wash their hands and say, well, my lawyer certified it, so I didn't know anything about it. There are clients who are going to use their lawyer as a buffer for their own liability, but by and large, you just need to protect yourself from your clients in the general sense. Make sure what you're being told is true. Trust but verify. Get a retainer. Incidentally, a little parentheses here. If a client ever shames you for asking them for a retainer, you are going to be chasing them for payment later on down the line. If they don't have the money to put up a retainer, you are going to be chasing them for payment down the line. There's a saying in the practice that you can judge a lawyer by their client and a client by their lawyer. Lawyers tend to have clients that reflect their values and vice versa. So when I say that your client is fundamentally more your enemy more so than opposing counsel or the opposing party. It's not in the sense that you have to hate them and distrust them. In fact, if you distrust your client so fundamentally, it's called a loss of confidence, and it constitutes a grounds to cease representing. When I say that your client is your greatest enemy, it's that you have to protect yourself from your client, and you have to protect your client from themselves. And what this actually means is doing two jobs: your job as their attorney and opposing counsel's job, who is going to grill them, cross-examine them, make them cry, tear apart their story. If you don't do opposing counsel's job, opposing counsel is still going to do it. And if it's the first time that someone's doing it with your client, they may break down, there may be inconsistencies, there may be contradictions, they may get themselves in a little bit of trouble, and if that happens, they're not going to blame themselves. They're going to blame you, their attorney, for not having protected them. So now you know. That's it. Peace out.